Today on Larissa's Kitchen, we're going to be making lasagna. Now many of you have had the lasagna I make, and I've given away the recipe freely, but now you get to see a step-by-step video for how to make it. Now, I recently just got done watching the Alton Brown lasagna episode, and I think the man's off his nut. Lasagna noodles, zucchini, eggplant, and powdered goat's milk do not a lasagna make. So let me give you mine. Alright, we're going to start with 1 pound of ground pork sausage. Now please don't substitute any other meat for this or it's not going to be the lasagna I make. You're also going to need 4 to 5 cloves of garlic finely minced, about 1/3 cup of dried parsley flakes along with a teaspoon each of tarragon, thyme, and salt, and about 1/2 teaspoon of fresh cracked black pepper. For the tomatoes, you're going to need a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes, a 14-ounce can of tomato sauce, and a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. So let's go ahead and get this all over to the stove and start cooking. Okay, the easiest way to get your sausage out of your wrapper is to cut off both ends. Now this was a 2-pound pack, so I cut it in half. Cut off both of these ends, slit it down the middle, and then your pork sausage just rolls right out of the wrapper. Alright, let's get this cut up so we can start getting this browning in the pan. Alright, we can't just walk away from the sausage once you get it cut up because when we cook it, it will cook into one big lump. So you're going to have to stay here and continue to break this up and turn it over to get it to brown properly. Okay, so you can see I've just been cooking this down and breaking it up as it cooks. You don't want really big pieces, otherwise your meat sauce is going to be too lumpy and it's not going to work right. Alright, this looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and get the garlic in here. Alright, we just want to let our garlic soften. We do not want it to brown or that'll give this a burnt flavor. So we've got all our spices together. Let's go ahead and get those in. And again, once we get our spices in, just a quick whirl around the pan, and then we need to add our tomato products. Alright, this has been about 45 seconds or so. Let's go ahead and start adding in the tomato stuff. Alright, now once this comes together and it starts simmering, we're going to turn this temperature down to low and then we're going to let this simmer for 45 minutes. Alright, this has come together and it's starting to bubble a little bit, so I don't want it to pop everywhere, so I'm going to turn the temperature down to low and I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 45 minutes. Alright. I just was giving that a bit of a stir. You'll want to check it every 10 minutes or so just to make sure nothing's burning on the bottom. Alright, now we're going to make the cheese portion or the bechamel portion of this lasagna. Now I will give credit to Alton Brown on this. I personally think that ricotta cheese is absolutely disgusting too. So, we use cottage cheese in our mixture. And you need about between 16 and 20 ounces of cottage cheese. I like a little more cottage cheese in my lasagna. So you'll need between 16 and 24 ounces of cottage cheese, 2 eggs, about 1/3 cup of dried parsley flakes, that's a handful. You're also going to need another teaspoon or so of kosher salt, and yes, you do need kosher salt in here, and also another 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We are also going to need some fresh ground Parmesan cheese, enough to make this mixture about the right consistency, and that's going to depend on how big your eggs are and how much whey your cottage cheese has in it. So right now we're going to try about 1 cup of cottage cheese and go from there. Alright, I think this is still a little bit too loose, so I'm going to add at least another 1/2 cup of this Parmesan cheese into here. Alright, this is a good consistency. Now we're going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator and let it sit until we're ready to put our lasagna together. All right, we've got about 20 minutes left on the meat sauce, so now is a good time to get started on the noodles. Now the original recipe does call for 12 noodles, 2 layers of 6 noodles, but that's just too much noodles for my taste. So I've decreased it to 8 noodles, 4 noodles per layer. Now we've got about a gallon of water in a very large Dutch oven, along with about 2 tablespoons of sea salt and about a 1/4 cup of canola oil. When this comes to a rolling boil, we'll go ahead and add our 8 lasagna noodles in, and we'll cook them until they're soft. Now they don't have to be cooked all the way through, because once we put the lasagna together, there'll be enough liquid in the lasagna itself to finish cooking the noodles while they're in the oven. Alright, you're also going to need 16 ounces of grated mozzarella cheese. Now I buy my mozzarella cheese in a big 5-pound block, and then I grate it and measure it out into 8-ounce bags for my pizzas. But it works perfectly in this application because you need your 16 ounces of cheese divided into 8 ounces so that you can put it in 2 layers. Alright, the timer's gone off on the meat sauce, so we're just going to go ahead and turn off the heat, and then we're just going to give this one final stir, and then this can just sit on the stovetop and wait for everything else to get done. It doesn't matter if it comes to room temperature. We'll be cooked for another 30 minutes, so it's fine. Alright, now my noodles are done, so I am going to go ahead and turn those off, and I'm going to very carefully get this whole thing over to the sink. Now, we will have to be very careful about steam burns, so do not look over the pan as you are dumping these into your colander. Okay, and we want to rinse these with cold water. Alright, so first things first. 4 noodles need to go down in the bottom of this pan. They do need to overlap just a little bit. The next layer is half of your cottage cheese. This is a 9 by 13 inch baking dish, by the way. And no, this does not need to be smooth. That's about half of it. Okay, the next layer is 8 ounces of mozzarella cheese. All right, and then half of your meat mixture. And this doesn't have to be smooth either. Now we may not use all of this meat mixture, it may be too much. And that'll be perfectly wonderful with my husband since he loves to eat that directly from the pan. Alright, we're on to the next layer. 4 more noodles. Alright, that looks pretty good. I don't want to overload it. Alright, now I've got my oven set to 350. When it gets done preheating, we're going to put this in the oven for 30 minutes. Then it needs to come out and sit on top of your stove for a minimum of 15 minutes to let it set up. It would be much better if you let it set out for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or even an hour. In fact, I think lasagna tastes best when it's eaten at room temperature. All right, my oven is preheated, so let's go ahead and get this in here for 30 minutes. All right, the timer's going off on this lasagna for 30 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take it out. And we're just going to put this on top of the stove and let it sit and rest for at least 30 minutes. Okay, we're getting ready to try this lasagna. Now, in a previous episode, I fired my taster son for being a dork, but he convinced me to let him back on. So, Ethan, get your funky ass out here and don't say anything stupid. Alright, let's give this a taste. And I think it's delicious. noodles to 4, or